Jalal, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi, Jalal. Could you make a short introduction of yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Jalal. I'm still 24 years old and tomorrow I'll be 25. I'm originally from Afghanistan and I'm the former cultural mediator with high schools and also the former refugee who used to live at the refugee camps in Lesbos.
Jalal, thanks for that short that introduction. I just want to also add to Jalal is really an incredibly inspiring person, a real community builder. I'm sure you'll share more of that, but I want to sincerely thank Jalal also for making the time to be available here today. It was through this panel discussion, and I'm hoping that Mr. Miroyanis will be able to join us. It was through Mr. Miroyanis from Karatepe camp that I was introduced to Jalal. And Jalal has been, as I mentioned, a community builder, always connecting people across the whole island and incredible relationships. So looking forward to his insights. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much, Vasily, for giving me this opportunity to share a bit story and our experience during the last years at the camp. And it was great time that it was great and nice that we were working together with the refugees and the locals, especially the students. The time that we went to the university and we took them to the refugee camp, Karatapa camp, and they all were surprised. All the students were surprised to hear their refugee stories, to see their daily life at the camp, and it was great.
Welcome, Jalal. So I just got a message that Parwana is struggling to connect with us. So apologies for that. I'm just seeing from a panel perspective, we seem to be missing people. So I don't want to hold back. So maybe Jalal, maybe you can tell us about your experiences. I mean, you were on Lesbos for 4 years before you left, and I remember from the first day that I met you, you said you're going to Zeist. I asked you why Zeist. You didn't know why exactly. I think but you just set yourself a goal, be able to go there, and you managed to do that, and many other things. So if you can just give us some of your thoughts and insights of your experience on Lesbos over the last while you were there, and especially in context of the perception and reality. And yeah.
Well, yes, Vasily, I arrived in 2016 on Lesbos after I spent like a week in Moria. Then I moved to Karatepe. I was lucky that time that I had a chance to move to Karatepe with my family. There,
Excuse me, Jalal. We cannot hear you very well. Could you maybe speak a little bit louder, please? Or
okay, can you hear me now?
oh yeah,
Yeah, I arrived in April
thank you.
2016 on Lesbos. You're welcome. Where I had to stay a week in Moria. Then I was very lucky that I had a chance to move to Karatepe with my family. There the situation was much better. There I saw Karatepe as a small village where I had a more chance and opportunity to live and to be active. There I decide with the people who I met at the camp from different cultural and religious and countries that we decided to make a group where we could help the NGOs at the camp to provide better help to the refugee at the camp. There I got the permission from Mr. Stavros, who was the manager of the camp at Karatepe, and he gave us a chance work with him and work with other NGOs who were providing help to the refugees. I would say that when the refugees are arriving at in Greece or any other European countries, they are full of hope. They're hoping that they can build their future, and they have a talent. They have a talent. They have an education where they study in their back home, but because of the war or any other reason that they couldn't continue the life in the country, and they decide to leave. And then when they arrive in Europe, they believe that Europe will support them, will give them the chance to build up their new life. Then they're arriving on Lesbos or any other island or any other part in Greece, and they have to stay inside the refugee camp and in a very bad condition and situation. They're losing their motivation. They're losing their hope. And I would say that there are a thousand skills at the camps, refugees with the skills. And today, if you see, most of the NGOs are receiving the help from the asylum seeker at the camp. If you look at all the NGOs, all the organization at the Moria, Lesbos, or even in Athens, they're all receiving the help from the refugees, because the refugees are willing, or asylum seekers are willing to help. They're willing to use their skills. They're willing to to show that we are also the parts of the community. We're also the parts of the society. We're also the parts of the country. But unfortunately, not everyone had a chance to do that. During the last few years, me and Wasili, we were talking about how we can find a solution to bring the refugees and the locals, especially the young students, together to work. But as you all know, there is always tension between the refugees and the locals, because there is a misunderstanding. There's a misunderstanding between them because they don't know why refugees are there, and refugees also think, some of them maybe think that is locals' fault that they are stuck on the island. And but me and Wasili, we tried to bring some friends from the camp to the university and to share the stories, to tell to the students that why refugees are leaving the country. And we try to explain a bit about the refugee skills. There we had many friends from the camp that they share the story with the students, and some of them they said, I graduate from university. Some of them say I graduate from school or from high school, and for me there I find very interesting, because the students were asking me like, oh, you are also studying in your country. You guys are also going to university. You also know how to use the technology. And there I told them, yes, we also know how to use the technology. And there they were very interested, because they all thought refugees are coming from nowhere, and they had no idea why these people are leaving the country. Then we decided to go at the camp. We share our story at the camp. They came inside our tents, our icebox. We had a meal together, and since that time, I'm still having contact with this. But still, I still have contact with those students we met at the university. We became very good friends, and sometimes when I was in Lesbos, sometimes we went for coffee or for drink. And for me, it's more important to say that there is misunderstanding between these two groups, two communities. It should be an explanation for both. It should be Europe must act. Europe must find a solution to bring the locals and refugees together to support refugee side and also support the local side, because it's not only refugee, it's not only the locals. They're both suffering from the crisis, and Europe must find a solution to bring these two groups together, to make them, to open centers, to educate them both together, and give them the chance that both sides can use their knowledge and their skills together.
Jalal, thank you very much for your inspiring talk, and again, the impact that you created with the students, witnessing that and seeing how the perception changed of the perception the students had, and when they met you, is something that I will never forget. I want to just start, you mentioned the misunderstanding a couple of times. So there's two things that I want to ask you. The one is that if you can just talk about any change that you may have experienced in context of the people of Lesbos being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and then what we've seen the last couple of years, that change, like just your thoughts on that. And let's start with that. I'll ask the question, the second question after that. So if you can just share your insights and thoughts, what if you've experienced personally the change, and what do you think the reason is for the change of if there has been any change from when you first came until when you left, from that perspective, and just give more insights around that.
Well, there's two different changes since the time that I arrived on Lesbos. The change from the refugee camps, the situation always got worse and worse because more people has arrived, and there were less support since 2016. But from my own experience, that with a relationship with the locals since 2016 until now, I got more understanding of them, and they got more understanding me. That the people who I met, even my neighbors, the place where I used to live in Trini, in the beginning when I rent a house there, and my neighbor were a little bit scared from me, and later, some months later, every time when I went out, I said hi. When I went home, I said goodbye. They they saw that I'm not a person that they think, because they have a they have a they have a negative thoughts about the Moria and about the people inside the Moria camp. But when you talk with them, when you have a conversation with them, when you are explaining to them what is the reason that you are on Lesbos, and when you are so hearing their story, when you are so hearing their issue, then you understand both sides will understand the problems. And when they see that it's not your fault that you're there, and you also see that it's also not their fault that you're there, there's a lot of change. But I would say, when you meet people, when you talk to them, when you explain to them, when you work together with them, then you see the change in a better way. When you stay away from them, when you don't have any relationship with them, when you don't work together with them, then has a negative change, and everything will goes wrong.
Uh, so, Jalal, thank you. And that's 100%. Again, it's the perception, as we said, versus the reality. And on that point, you said the EU, for example, Europe has to change that. So how is Europe going to be able to change to be able to connect more people, so that you would be able to get into contact with locals in an environment that enables for you to be able to interact with the locals. So so about the difference of opinion of people seeing you until once they get to know you, and as soon as they actually have a conversation with you, then everything changes almost like immediately, because people are like, wow. And as you mentioned earlier about this guy's gone to university, he knows about technology and whatnot. So what would you have thought on Lesbos could have been done to enable that more? And again, so I didn't quite get it. So you personally didn't see, you said from a refugee situation, the situation got worse with the can and the crowding. But I'm asking from a tension perspective towards locals. Did you always feel that you had a good relationship with them? So you never felt like negativity from 2017 when you arrived and when you left?
Well, also there is always when the population of refugees became more and more and more. I think all the refugees, they felt that the locals now having a negative thought about refugees. Of course, I also faced many times, even some of my friends, Greek friends, they said, well, like, sorry, we cannot like meeting you anymore because of the situation, like now getting worse and worse and worse, and we don't want to get into the problem with our community. Of course, I personally face that, but the as I said, the Europe EU leaders should act on that, should find a solution to bring these two groups and first explain them that why these people are there, and then find a solution to bring these people to work together, because these refugees, these refugee children, they are the future of the Europe, and Europe should be responsible for that. And EU leaders, they should find a solution to bring these two groups together and open centers, open education services, and give them education services. I have a many Greek friends. They're willing to help. They're really willing to help the refugees. And many times they they try to join the NGOs who are helping on this, but unfortunately, and most of the NGOs, you must, as a volunteer, you must pay some money to join the organization, or to pay donation to the organization to be able to volunteer. And I have many Greek friends, they are willing to help, but there is no way that they can help. But if there will be a center, education center, or anything which is made by European Union or supported by European Union, I believe that there are 100,000 locals and refugees that are willing to work together, to have workshops, to work on to learn the technology, which is we already spoke a lot, me and you, in the last years, that the technology is one of the most important things for the refugees right now. They need to learn, and that can happen through the locals. The locals can teach them. They can work together on that.
Excellent, Jalal. Thank you very much for that. So, a community center where people can come and interact, and more importantly, especially in today's day and age, is a center where people can learn skills, the digital skills, skills of the future, and learn together. So, so I want to follow up with the following question, Jalal, and you know, from a local's perspective, if you,
Vasily,
given that, yes.
Excuse me to interrupt you. I just have Christina who is asking you to send the link to Yanis. Otherwise, she cannot connect.
Okay, thank
Please.
you very much for that. I
Thank
will
you.
do that. Pleasure. Thank you. So, Jalal, just if you can quickly share some of your insights around the given that people have not come into contact, you know, and they hear some of the negative stories that have happen, and in the context of there's 40% of the asylum of the population in Mytilene is asylum seekers, you know. So, or maybe, yeah. So just the thing, you know, that makes people more uncertain, especially if there's no platforms where people are coming together through a community center. Then it makes people even more. Oh, lovely to see you, Jalal. It makes people even more.
Yeah, I just find out how to join. Sorry.
So it makes people a bit more uncertain, you know, because there's no solution. People have been stuck on the islands, and asylum seekers want to be able to empower themselves and get job opportunities so that they can work and create a better future for themselves. But now they're stuck on the island. There's a lack of platforms that can bring people and connect them, so we can have dialogues about this. And people talk about all the fear that they have, you know, if someone has stolen or broken into something, because in every society that happens, and you have those cases. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Or I don't know, it's kind of a statement, but that there's 40% of the population in Mytilene, the capital city, is of asylum seekers. And, you know, if we look at European context, which other city has taken so many? But but for Lesbos, 27,000. It's about 25,000 asylum seekers, which is nothing in the context of Europe. 25,000 is a drop in the ocean. Yeah. So just some thoughts on that.
Really, we are only talking today about the Lesbos, but we shouldn't forget that there are more refugees. There are, I think, over 100,000 refugees and asylum seekers are in Greece, and I think they're all facing the same problem, and they're all facing the suffering from the same problem. It's not only Lesbos, but of course we are now more focusing on Lesbos because there are million people now are watching Lesbos. What's going on? There's always on the news about the refugee crisis or other things are going on there. But as I said before, again, there is a misunderstanding between the locals and the refugees. They need to talk. If the European Union give them the chance and open a center where they can gather together, where they can share the story, and where they will find a way to deal with the situation, because there is a misunderstanding and both groups are blaming on each other. Like I'm personally, when I arrived in 2016, I was also stuck for 2 years and a half on Lesbos. For the first years, I was blaming on Greece. That I'm stuck because of Greek people, because of the Greek government. But as we all know, that this is a decision from the European Union, and Greece has nothing to do with that. The local has nothing to do with that, and they're also facing the same problem that we are facing. But I would say, as you said, there's no solution. There is a solution, Vasily. There is a solution. A solution is very simple, and I believe if European Union want to find a solution for Lesbos, they can just fix it on Monday. But as we know, they won't find a solution, or they don't want to find a solution, or they don't want to act. Otherwise, there are €1 million they're spending on nothing, but they can spend on a technology, open the centers, and bring the locals and refugees together, and open the workshops where they can use their talent, where they can use from each other. But the problem is that European Union doesn't want to act on that.
So, Jalal, Mr. Yanis Pavlis and Mr. Nelly Khadzidaki have just joined us as well. But I just want to comment to you and say to you that I've really met some incredible people within the European Commission, and also individuals that drive community centers, co-working spaces across Europe, especially across Europe. In the European Commission, there's a lot of people that are doing the utmost, and they're doing the very best that they can to find a solution. So, and I don't think there's not a willingness. I think it's fear-based, because the fear of the unknown, in terms of what the local society fears. So the voters that have not come into contact with the likes of yourself and every other refugee, they've got a certain perception. But I really want to say to you, across Europe, there is, in the European Commission, a lot of people that are working tirelessly to be able to find a solution. So, and they want to. I think the important thing is for us to be able to the misunderstanding that you mentioned twice, we need to change that. So people need to be able to come into contact in a non-threatening environment, to meet and to have dialogues and to understand. Because another challenge is the world is changing rapidly. People are losing their jobs and fearful of the future. So thinking, oh, if we're going to bring refugees, we don't have work, what are they going to do? You understand? So there's, again, it's all misconception and arguably fear-based and misunderstanding. So we must find ways to change that. And this is definitely something that I want to continue. And in our panel 3, we will actually specifically speak on that as a suggestion. And in panel 5, in fact, you will see some incredible initiatives across Europe that are taking place, and amazing work. And of course, panel 2, we've got Peter here, who's on a global level doing similar initiatives, and we look forward to that. But if I can, so Jalal, thank you very much. Please stay online for closing remarks. But Henry, over to Arthur. I'm sorry, Arthur, over to you. If you can introduce our next speaker.
Okay.
Panel.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Jalal, for these answers. I appreciate them.